Hi, my name is Nandia Luise. I am from Guadalajara, Mexico.
We have been talking to each other for a couple of days now, and it seems like you are very focused and you want to share with us that it's very important to have an ideal in our life, especially in the family life, to be happy. So, do you want to share your thoughts and views on that, please?
Yes, you mentioned that, it's important for me to be focused in what I'm doing. I just recently got married. I'm about to have a baby. And I was just reflecting upon the idea of what is my Dharma right now, because it was very, very different about a year ago before I got married, before I was about to have a child. And for me, being within my Dharma or following it is especially staying focused in what I believe is important for me to carry on a healthy family lifestyle. And that means like balancing work with devotional service in the morning, or remembering God every time that I wake up. And just by adding that like divine element every day in very simple things, like waking up and saying the Maha Mantra, or like offering my food, or every time that I serve a client, I think how I am serving God in the same way. And that just has created a lot of abundance for my family, for my business. Just remembering that everything belongs to the creator, and I'm just a small piece of part of him. And as long as I do things with love, with devotion, with dedication, I will feel happy and fulfilled as well.
What is your view or the perception of Dharma before you had this kind of new vision? What you used to think before? What is Dharma now? What you think is Dharma actually?
I will tell you, for me it's easier. For me, it's easier to describe what is not. I believe that in my current position, sometimes I can get distracted in life, like by the material world, right? So for me, it's like shopping. Sometimes I have this like tendency of like, oh, I need to shop to have like the ideal household, or I need to, shop so I can look a certain way. And that's just my mind gearing off something that it's not important, something that is just giving me an illusion of being well without actually feeding the soul, feeding my purpose. But when I actually take the time to focus inside and to really look from a very compassionate standpoint, not of like, oh, I should be doing this, I should have an expectation of me doing that, but like, okay, Nadia, what's going on? Like, why do you feel distracted? Why do you think these things are important? And when I go into this compassionate place, and when I meet myself where I'm at, I can really serve from a more authentic place. And when I'm serving from a place of authenticity, I feel like that is, I'm following my Dharma way closer than I did before. I don't know if that answered your question, or if it's a little clear.
Yeah. And you mean you had become a person with a very the expansion and the vision that you had has now broadened up, and now you realize it in your personal life, especially when you are in a family environment. Is that so?
Yeah. Um, I feel
Initially, it
like,
used to be self-centered. Now you are thinking in a very different way, in a broader way, isn't it?
yeah, I think that for me, it's not something that is automatic. I definitely have to go to this mental space of thinking, how am I doing right now, and evaluate from there and go from there. That's kind of like my process at the moment.
When they just accept, I mean, they start following dharma, But I was just curious to know at what point of time did you feel to get transformed into this space? I mean, it's just a word that I say transform, but when did you start planning, or how did it happen to you? I mean, when did you plan about it?
As of like the way I view Dharma in my marriage now,
No,
or in
I mean,
general.
yeah, as you said that there is a difference in your business, in your family life. So was there a point where you started doing, I mean, started practicing dharma from a certain point of life, or it?
Yes, definitely. I
Yeah.
know what you're saying.
Mm.
So about 3.5 years ago, I was in a very different consciousness and a very different. I was living a very different lifestyle. I was 19 and I was dating this guy who was like, in the exterior had everything. He was a trader. He had a BMW. He looked successful. He looked like he had it all, and I was attracted to that. And just like we were reading, we where our energy goes, that's the quality we attain or we become, right, Sash?
Yeah, yeah,
There's
definitely. I'm with you.
that's part of it, right? That's one of like the laws of Dharma. You focus your attention in goodness, and you become good.
Yes.
And I I I was focused in lust and in like exterior wealth and lust, which is not bad. Wealth is very good, but I mean, I was just focused in something that looked very attractive, sexually attractive, and very naturally attractive, without really understanding what it was gonna become of my life. And sooner than later, 6 months, 6 months later, I was like in a very toxic relationship. It was abusive from both parts, but I was so into that material lifestyle that it was very hard for me to break off because I didn't have anything better to feed myself off. So long story short, I remember I grew up Catholic. I grew up very devoted Catholic. And I remember going to church every Sunday and praying to God, like, please get me out of this situation. I feel very unhappy. I feel like, I'm living in misery. But I never did anything different. I just kept on going with my same habits, seeing the same people, serving the same men, you know. And until one time, God was merciful enough to put me in a situation where I was in an accident, and that relationship wasn't interested in keeping me if I was injured or like not in a well mental health. So I broke up with that relationship and I became a seeker. And upon doing that, God put me in a situation where I started going to meditation groups, and I heard about the Bhagavad Gita, right? Like the philosophy of India. And there's so much about Dharma when Krishna speaks to Arjuna. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to read that book, but Arjuna is very scared of fighting off his family. He's very scared of killing all the people that he's known before. But then Krishna says, if you don't show up to your duty of a warrior, these people are going to suffer. Actually, it's going to be way off for your tribe, for your family. And so then, that really shocked me. And that was like the beginning of understanding Dharma. We all have duties in life, as mothers, as teachers, as, the president. And does not matter what the title is really the intention, the consciousness that stream off of that. Just to think about it, it just like my heart and my mind just fills with gratefulness. And when I feel gratefulness, por favor, ya no estén abriendo la puerta. When I feel gratefulness, I know that I'm in the right path. It's just like a regular. I feel like that's the intuition of a human being. When I feel grateful and when I feel like, that state of like, man, I got it, man, like I'm doing this with love, uh it's just when I know, I'm in the right path. And again, I was lucky enough to know Dharma because I was very adharmic, you know?
Mm.
I was living an adharmic life.
Mm.
And then I just started I started to wonder. I was like, I'm looking for something. I didn't know what it was. I definitely wasn't looking for God because I grew up knowing God, you know, in a Catholic household. So I knew I wasn't chasing God, and definitely wasn't chasing a purpose because I was a student. I was like, I got my life figured out. Like, I know what I want to do, but I was chasing Dharma. You know, I was chasing principles. I was chasing, you know, a way of being. And then suddenly I learned, you know, that in Hinduism, in the Vedic teachings, and this is the last thing I want to speak of, that is in the Vedic teachings, there's three ways of being, three ways of gunas, right? Sattva gun, Rajagun, and Tamagun. And when somebody explained to me these things, I was like, okay, makes sense. So Rajagun is a mode of passion, Tamagun is a mode of ignorance, and Sattvagun is a mode of goodness. And I believe living in the mode of goodness is living in the mode of Dharma. You know, because when you're doing, you know, the right thing at the right time, and you're not vacillating between Tamagun, which is like, I feel fearful of doing what I'm supposed to do, or in the mode of Rajagun, I'm just doing without really thinking what I'm doing, but just make myself an illusion that I'm doing a lot by doing, but not really
Right.
doing with purpose.
Mm.
You know, but then Sattvagun is like, okay, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do when I'm supposed to do it. And I meet myself when I'm at, because I'm not always cheerful. I'm not always happy to show up to my duty, you know? But then I remember, okay, I know I will feel better after I do this. You know, I know I will feel not only proud, it goes beyond that. I know I will feel good, you know, therefore goodness. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
I think your story is such a clean example of how implementing those spirituality and all those principles help us transform our energy into a higher state. And it's such an inspirational and clean example of implementing uh, spiritual principles. I just want to ask you, how do you daily maintain all those spiritual principles along with your daily life? Do you read scriptures like every day or twice a day? Or how do you do that in regular
Yeah,
basis?
definitely association helps the most. So I'm in a group of women who follow Vishnu, so they call it Vaishnavis, from all over the world, and we read different scriptures. And you know, I'm in a reading group for sure. Um, and then I don't do a strict sadhana right now, which, you know, in my philosophy, they encourage you to do a strict sadhana, but I currently don't. I follow definitely a vegetarian diet that's sattvic, that is conducive to a dharmic lifestyle. So yeah, and you know, the right now what I am most focused is in my relationship with my husband, because I'm not gonna tell you we're 100% compatible. And I married out of love, but I felt like I also married because I wanted to grow. I wanted to grow up. And growing up sometimes is painful, and sometimes it's not glamorous. And so my biggest focus right now is like, what is my everyday relationship with my husband? And for me, sometimes means being really prudent, really seeing him as a mirror of the things that I really need to change about myself. Or really, sounds really weird, but really accepting that he has the leadership at one moment. You know, I'm a woman who likes leadership. Um, I'm a business owner. I do all the administration thing with the vegan restaurant that we own. and he's definitely upfront. So sometimes for me, like, it's important to remember, I really get to listen to him and trust him. So for me, that's an exercise, instead of wanting to control, I learn how to trust him in his choices and go from there. So for me, it's not just ritual. For me, it's not just like waking up and doing 2 hour meditation and puja, which definitely is very beautiful and supports me in my path. But for me, it's associating with the right people, with the people who are also focused in Dharma, and even people who don't follow, who don't even know, that they're following Dharma. So many people, especially because I live in Mexico, not everybody has that Vedic teachings, but definitely you see them shining through them because it's truth. So there's truth through many countries and languages, and I try to relate with them as much as I can. And then number two is following looking at Dharma through my relationships, especially my most challenging one, which is the relationship that I have with my husband. And lastly is the relationship that I have with myself. And that means sometimes taking care of myself, like really investing in, as Sasha was saying, her passion is investing in dharmic teachings and religion and all of that, besides her regular job,
Yes.
But yeah, but for me, it's also like that. Really taking care of myself, especially after the accident. I really had to learn how to not codepend from others, but really be interdependent with myself. And that means asking for help when I need to. I don't know. I really see this very practical. That's how I see Dharma, as a very practical thing in my life.
So I've been like following the principles of Sri Thakur, Anukul, Chandra. So it has been a very coincidence, honestly. I was not I'm not from my family is not a satsangi family, but I came in touch with a few teachers who were satsangi before, but I didn't realize that they were. So they started telling me like about the good things about in their lives, and they guided me that it's going to be a life-changing experience. Just get in touch, just experience. If you My teacher said, I remember that day, that there are we never think a lot before doing bad things, but why do we need to think so much if we want to jump into something spiritual? Why do we give so much thoughts into it? So I think my teachers saying it acted like a catalyst, and I just thought, without giving more thoughts, I just went forward, and I started. I got initiated at that day 2 years back. So after that, it's been a slow and gradual process, and with each day, the principles being taught, the prayer session that the Satsang UK family shares every evening, every morning, and all those little teachings, I won't say all those teachings from experiences. Just like the way you shared with us today, there are lots of other people who share their life experiences. It has been a slow and gradual process, and with time, I'm just the realization is getting like more intact and more closer. So that's how I'm literally enjoying it. Yeah.
I feel very related to what you shared, because I've refrained myself from getting initiated, getting a mantra, getting a spiritual teacher, because I feel like I got so much to prepare. I feel like I want to live this kind of lifestyle until I die. And I would never want to make myself again burn myself out or put myself to unrealistic expectations, and rather just work up slowly. And I felt like that's kind of what you were saying, just like knowing little by little, day by day. And yeah, I feel like it's a way of being rather than a destination. It's just like, rather than getting to a place and just like being dark forever and following forever. Like, no, we're in this material life. We're in this, like, it's a confusing world. That's
Exactly.
just what we're living right now, and accepting as it is, and accepting that I am human and that I am, just learning, is just, for me, has been so liberating, especially growing up in a household and in a school of life where people value perfection and people valued A's, and B's were not good enough. And just like changing that mindset was hard for me. Changing that mindset to fit a spiritual lifestyle was definitely like on a 380 degrees. Like, it's
Exactly.
just yeah. So thank you for sharing that.